You know, ladies and gentlemen, I've covered a lot of stupid YouTubers in my life, okay? Like, throughout my years, I've definitely talked about a lot of dumb creators, okay? But it seems like every year there's like another stage, you know? It's like, okay, we were faking girlfriend's debts here. You know, maybe we did a crypto scam here. Maybe we did some other scam here. But we're looking at 31 years possibly in a prison. Now, I am 31 years old, okay? So in my head, I've kind of been thinking, imagine living my whole life, the extent of my entire life on this earth, behind bars. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I don't have to think too much, okay? This guy, Johnny Somali, you know, you might have seen me talk about him. I generally, like, this guy's always on my radar. But he's on my radar because I look at it with morbid curiosity. Now, before we come into this, you might be like, but Muda, isn't this what this guy enjoys? Doesn't he enjoy it when people just talk about him? Obviously, this is all feeding into him. And you know what? Even Johnny will agree. You got to listen to this one.
There is a lot where they're gonna clip it. I already know these channels, and they're the that keep me relevant, bro. I can stream once a month and I'm still relevant. My name is getting millions of views on YouTube, and I don't even have to do nothing.
Now, I love this, okay? You don't really have to watch the whole 1 minute clip, but he's right. You know, people are keeping him relevant. He's getting millions of views. If you watch channels like mine, Atozy, Charlie, anybody that's talking about goofy shit on the internet, yes, across the board, Johnny is quite a relevant topic. But Johnny is not seeing any of that money or any of that relevancy anywhere. If anything, Johnny's relevancy is actually accelerating his detainment in South Korea. So you might not know about this, but, you know, basically this guy is just tacking upon charges upon charges upon charges for him. So let's just go down memory lane real quickly and look at exactly the kind of stupid shit Johnny has done, count by count, okay? So one of the first real, I would say, crimes that Johnny was effectively doing was basically going around in public and giving lap dances to these comfort woman statues, okay? Now, this is all on camera. 555 people were watching whatever the stream was, 600 now. And over here, he goes up to this comfort woman statue, shows his ass a little bit. And of course, eventually, he gives the nicest lap dance you've ever seen this side, okay? Now, of course, you might be like, what is the big deal, Muda? Remember, these are comfort women statues. They idolize a very dark period of Korean history in general. Korea, Japan have actually had like real disdain with each other. They've actually had real grievances to air. Now, imagine if this is what your country's culture is, and out of nowhere, some American Somalian guy fucking flies in and does this shit, okay? You're probably gonna be a little bit mad. But see, Johnny has been kind of on a cultural tear, basically being the most annoying, American you could ever imagine, all right? So for instance, this is one clip of him basically being in 7-Eleven, all right, pouring out the drinks, making his ramen, basically harassing individuals. And of course, you can see like one of the important things is he runs like TTS, so it's a loud, obnoxious noise. You know, you've got the old lady at 7-Eleven, clearly doesn't get paid enough, and she just doesn't want to deal with this nonsense. And of course, he's just goddamn draining his ramen all over the goddamn table. You know, these people walking into the store probably think like, man, this guy's actually brain dead. He's throwing noodles outside the store. He's being annoying. Now, when you add up charges, for instance, this one right over here is apparently obstruction of business. And don't get me wrong, we actually did research exactly what the laws were. So according to the Korean Criminal Act, Article 314, a person who interferes with the business of another by the method of Article 313 or by the threat of force shall be punished by imprisonment of not more than 5 years, so you got 5 years, or a fine not exceeding 15 million won. For anybody that doesn't know what 15 million won to USD is, all right, I'll just do the quick conversion, around $10,787, all right? Now again, Johnny may have this money, he may not, all right? Granted, a lot of his money is probably being drained away trying to pay for the sins that he has committed. Any person who interferes with another person's business by damaging or destroying data processors such as computers or spatial media records, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, all of this is apparently, this is the actual statute they're bringing up. To bring into, like, you know, his case, right? Like interference with a business or the obstruction of a business. Being in 7-Eleven, being a nuisance, is probably going to fall under the obstruction of business charge. So if you thought there was, something way worse than that, ladies and gentlemen, well, it just keeps getting added on. For instance, here he's getting arrested by South Korean police. You can see the actual cop car. He's got rotten fish that he was apparently throwing around. The cops had to eventually end up getting involved and deal with an actual arrest over here. This was not something that you should be doing, not even just in Korea. You just shouldn't be doing this in general, okay? People are wondering what's wrong with him. He's telling me, hey, the cops are coming. Please stop. So obviously, looking closer into the Korean laws, one of them was Punishment of Minor Offenses Act, which I believe the closest thing to fall under this would be Article 3, and then you would go all the way down to, I think it would be like Section 1, but then Subject 10, which comes around right over here where you can actually see like, I think it's, littering possibly. Any person who recklessly litters cigarette butts, gum, waste paper, wastes dead animal, which would probably be the rotten fish, especially dirty rotten fish. And of course, I believe there might actually be something related to unhygienic behavior as well too. But these are not laws that are simple. This is just basically a fine or a detention for about 30 days. So probably not the biggest thing that he has to worry about in comparison to just the obstruction of business charge. Which then you go down a little bit further, and of course, he does even more annoying things. For instance, right over here in South Korean metros, he's out here playing music really loudly. Everyone's just staring at him, okay? And you gotta remember, like, if you're in a homogenized society like this, there's an extra care when you're not from the area, right? Like, to give you guys a quick apt comparison, like, when I go to Japan, when I go to really any country where it's like super homogenized, and, I'm like the one Indian person some guy ever sees in their whole life, I don't want it to be that that person has only ever seen stereotypes, and then all of a sudden, if I actually go into those stereotypes and do the dumb, stupid shit that he's heard of on the internet, that guy's only perception of Indian people will be my dumb ass. Which is probably what's happened with some of the individuals over here in Korea. They're like, man, are they all like this? Huh, suddenly everything I read on Twitter makes a lot more sense. So yeah, it really is just the extra care. And of course, this is again verifiable evidence that has been captured, and it's almost difficult for Johnny to be arguing this in court. Now, of course, anytime you actually obstruct anything like this or do this, I believe the maximum penalty you can get somewhere for this is like 5 years. But arguably the most evil thing, and probably the one thing that's from now on you're going to see that's really going to land him with serious jail time, is this shit. So in some of his streams, when he was not outside being a dumbass, he was inside with his community memeing around and basically creating deepfake videos of, unconsenting women on camera kissing him. Now, this is from Korea now. This is from the Korean government. Like, this is like on the news. It's huge. For anybody that doesn't know, Korea has a serious like stance on deepfake pornography. Like, they've had such an issue with this, and I've talked about cases like the Nth Room, for instance, where in Korea, like, there's entire like groups, like tens of thousands of people on Korean, like, social media or like through Telegram that are basically sharing around like blackmail footage of like these women, sometimes deep fake footage of them. And it's a really distressing situation. Like, it's a really huge problem the country faces. And it's because of those huge problems that Korea has some of the most stringent deepfake laws anybody can imagine. From my understanding, you can face literally up to 7 to a max of 10 years in a court over deepfake stuff like this. And if you thought the 15 million won fine was a lot from before, this, from my understanding, is a 50 million won fine. Now, you might be like, okay, it's bad that he did it once, but it wasn't that he just did it once. He allegedly had done this twice, okay? So 2 deepfake charges were added to this entire story. But what comes next might be the dumbest shit that I've seen Johnny actually do. So this is from Legal Mindset, great channel. The guy covers Johnny pretty extensively, and from a legal perspective, he has a lot more to talk about than I do. He understands the law more. I mean, for crying out loud, the man flew out to the country just to see this dumbass, okay? And to be fair, I would too if I made a lot of videos on Johnny as well. At some point, you just have to see it all through. But this is really disgusting. So we're gonna watch this video.
For kids? What is this? Oh yeah, let's do this. There's a bunch of little kids, bro.
Oh, that's gonna be clipped out of context.
They're wondering where my parents are at. I am the size of most of these kids.
So Johnny plays, harassing TTS targeted at children. So again, this is a huge issue because, again, one employee comes up, so, it could probably be obstruction of business. But according to Legal Mindset, what has effectively happened over here is this is being investigated by South Korean police for child harassment, a crime which carries a potential prison sentence of not just 10 years, but 10 years with labor. Labor has been a huge part of like prisons in Asia, but I mean, Johnny is really not just speedrunning his time there, but he's also speedrunning his time to be the most grueling time you could imagine out of any Asian prison. And Asian prisons don't necessarily screw around, okay? Like American prisons might be like profit, focused endeavors, but like, when it comes to Asian prisons, like you have to operate by like an insane structure, okay? Like your life is very rigid. And for somebody like Johnny, trying to, kind of assimilate to that will be a problem he faces until, if he gets maximally tried, probably looking at getting out when you're around the age of 60, okay? So by the time that I'm retired with like grandkids and shit, Johnny will finally be able to leave. Right now he was doing the fucking around, but very soon he'll be doing the finding out stage of his life for a long damn time. Now, of course, one of the disgusting things that keeps getting added to this situation is his demeanor in a court of law. Now, look, when you have this much going against you, it's probably smart. Like every lawyer in life will tell you, buddy, just shut up, okay? Just stop. When you've got people in your country hunting you down, okay? I'm not even joking. Johnny was such a degenerate person that in amongst his debauchery, he was being hunted and assaulted by Korean Navy SEALs, okay? Now remember, Korea is a country with mandatory conscription, okay? When you go to a country where everyone is trained, okay, your life is gonna be really annoying when they hunt you down because these people have been trained to goddamn kill. When Johnny goes to prison, he's probably gonna go to prison with people who have been trained to kill, all right? He will be the goddamn whipping boy of a South Korean prison, and the world will literally just laugh because he is just that much of a hated character. It's to the point where even the SEAL that was actually, involved in harming, Somali was actually like fined. I think it was something around like $7,000 for attacking the guy. And to give you an idea, the community like loves this guy so much that even another amazing YouTuber, friend of the channel, Donut Operator, ended up actually paying like $7,000. Like he paid off the dude's fines. And if Donut wasn't going to do it, I probably would have done it because, to be honest, or Tozy would have done it. Anyone would have done it because it's just funny to see this guy face final like consequences for his shitty actions. Now, where is Johnny apparently now? Well, one of the recent videos that I saw coming out was apparently Johnny had decided to join the KKK. I guess that's the most salient way to put it. Where apparently he was on this rooftop, just like, people were filming him. He was dressed up as a goddamn Klansman, okay? On the rooftop of an apartment building. Just right here. I mean, the guy is completely unhinged. And of course, here's a closer shot right over here. Johnny Somali, who was apparently late to court, pled guilty on several charges. And of course, not guilty, however, on, I believe, the deepfake charge, which is probably the biggest one to deal with. Like, that's the one in court that they're really going to stick you on. Like, if it's anything to make an example out of you, it's definitely the deepfake charge. But, like, listen to this right over here.
That the war against famous black men will end. I have a nightmare that the only crime that turned previous heroes like Ye, P. Diddy, Bill Cosby, R. Kelly, and Johnny Somali into...
What a group of black guys to put yourself into. The real Avengers, if you... like Ye, like R. Kelly, like Bill Cosby, and me. It's like the Avengers, the worst people you could fucking find. God damn.
The villains was their melanin. I have a vision that if the great Kanye Omari West...
You know what? I'll be real, okay? Before we can hear like MLK do the RPMs in the grave right now, Johnny, hasn't really experienced, I would say, real racism, okay? I'll be real with you guys, like, American racism is not as intense or S-ranked as, like, Asian racism, right? Like, You know, it's crazy. Like, I come from a country, India, and in India, it's like, you know, if you ever like actually took the swatches out and like looked at different shades of brown, like to the regular racist over here in America, they might be like, they're all just brown guys, okay? But to Indian racists, somehow we can identify the differences in melanin between each other and probably find some reason to hate. And you know what? That kind of hate and racism kind of subtly exists across the entire Asian continent. Johnny has never actually experienced real racism until it's at the hand of the S ranks of racists, which I think primarily sit amongst the Asian groups out there. So all of this KKK dressing, showing up late to court, these are all things that I think Johnny is trying to do to basically maybe appear as a psychotic individual, to maybe get like a commuted charge, or become such a nuisance that in his mind, he thinks he's just going to get deported, which is not going to happen because a country like Korea now has a reason to make an example out of him so that any other douchebag that comes to their country, whether it be a Vitali, whether it be a Suspendas, whether it be any kick streamer or any streamer in general, learns that unless you want to spend the next 30 to maybe 40 years of your fucking life in prison, please don't disrupt our country, which I think is actually a good thing to do. Like, a lot of people say, I'm against excessive, like, use of force, like, excessive, like, you know, charges. But honestly, in this guy's case, like, bro, the more you can stack, the harder I'll laugh. Now, if you thought the KKK Klansman was bad enough, I've got something that is probably going to add an extra charge to this man's courtroom, okay? And the reason I'm cringing is because, you know, if you're in a court battle, like a criminal court battle, would you ever threaten the judge and the judge's mom? Probably not, I would imagine. You know, if I would say this is probably the one question I'm asking the audience where the answer is 100% no. Well, listen to this. This is thankfully coming from our friend over at Legal Mindset once again. Great channel.
They are not there yet. It is 10 minutes before their trial. They are not yet in the courtroom. So RKI and Hank are not yet in the courtroom. My guess is they are hiding out. They're probably scared, and they are probably hiding out. So they're probably doing that before the courtroom. Here's what they had to say about the judge. And mind you, the judge definitely has seen this. Let's play the video.
The judge, the prosecutor, y'all can suck my
did you guys hear that in the back? Did everybody hear that?
Yeah. Suck my dick on soft. Causing anxiety by carrying a fish. Tell the judge you can suck my dick.
So,
man, dude, God, if you were this guy's lawyer, you'd want to blow your goddamn brains out. Judge, can you suck my cock? No. God, if I'm cringing this hard, imagine being this dumbass's lawyer, bro. Fuck, you idiot.
Send a fish to your mother's house, bitch.
threatening the so
Bring the fish to your mother's house, bitch.
You're gonna send the fish to his mom's house? Oh, it was bad enough with the judge. Why the mom? You know, out of everything this guy has done, I think threatening the judge and the judge's mother might actually be somehow the worst thing on that list. And if they're not able to tack on an extra 10 years to this dumbass's sentence, I would actually be shocked. You know, Johnny Somali is just a prime example of, like, you know, FAFO, right? Like, literally just fuck around, find out. Like, he's the perfect prime example of it. And to be honest with you, it's like, you know, people are always like, you know, you're just giving this guy attention. You're talking about it. That's what he wants. Not all attention is good attention. It is actually a public service to tell people about Johnny and his dumb actions. Because the more people cover it, the more people showcase his clips that were streamed from his channel, allegedly, it will obviously, you know, play in Korean courts. And again, this is behavior that, like, look, if you were to act like this in any other country, again, I always have said this since the beginning, traveling is not a right, it's a privilege, right? Like, getting to leave your country and go to other countries is a privilege. You know, you need a passport, you need to apply to that shit, and then you get to go to other countries with visas and whatnot. When you go to another country and you get a passport, like, it's interesting, like, passports are never your own, they're always given to you by a government. And they're given to you because when you get a passport, you are actually not just representing yourself and your people, but you're representing your goddamn nation. And Johnny, you know, whether he wants to show up as a Somalian or an American, because I believe he's like an actual he's just an American. He's like an American-born kid. You are basically making your nation look like the biggest group of shitheads on the planet. So when you get the book thrown at you, I don't think anybody in America, let alone South Korea, is going to disagree. Johnny Somali is looking at we're looking at like 30 to maybe 30 plus years at this point in prison, okay? And definitely he will not be able to pay off the fines that will be tacked on top of it too. So this guy will be going to a Korean jail. He will probably have to do labor if some of those like child endangerment charges stick. And this guy will probably be getting out long after I am retired off of YouTube, long after this whole story is done. It's the perfect example of like, you know, this guy probably thought, hey, I was making money for a little bit, being an idiot all over the world. You know, he was going to places like Japan, going to places like Israel, going to places like Korea. He was going to tons of places being an actual idiot. And it was this one country, Korea, where they finally decided enough is enough. We're going to actually try this person. And he probably didn't realize that this arrest would last longer than, you know, honestly, like a couple weeks, if anything. But now I think it's slowly starting to settle in that he's not able to escape. He's not able to run from this. America will not get involved and argue on his behalf, because it's not like this man is some crazy, you know, important figure for the American people. This guy is just a dipshit live streamer. I doubt the U.S. State Department is going to do anything more than assist him with getting set up with a lawyer, if anything, right? Which I think all countries necessarily do. But yeah, this guy has completely ruined his life. And honestly, like, it couldn't have happened to a better person. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. I am out.